Our finale for today is a panel of 4 farmers that I asked to discuss some of their marketing and risk management practices, all in an effort to plant some seeds about alternatives that you might consider. And you don't have all the answers, neither do they, but managing risk is like any other aspect in agriculture, which takes time to learn, is full of trial and errors, and must certainly end up being comfortable to you. Matt Bennett gave a tremendous presentation, but some of you may not be comfortable in hedge windows. So whatever you do has to be comfortable to you, and we've got a variety of folks up here on the stage that have created their own custom risk management and marketing plans that are comfortable to them, and may have some ideas that you could say, hey, I can do that too. First of all is John Rutherford, who farms with a partner in Macon and Moultrie counties producing corn and beans. John uses forward contracts, engages in some hedging, has used options in the past, underscore, but does not use them currently. He's been using CRC, crop revenue coverage, at 85% level for the past several years. He's very happy with that. He used Climate Corp insurance last year, but not real sure he wants to do that again. Next to him, Gary Kuhns farms with 2 sons on a 5,600-acre operation west of Tuscola. His land includes all varieties of ownership, leases, and custom farming. It says he'll forward contract less than 50% of his expected production. He will use hedges, has used options in the past. He considers his seed and specialty crop contracts as a hedge to capture additional basis. Gary is also he's a user of a grain pool with the Cargill terminal at Tuscola. His use of crop insurance involves 80% RP, but only began a couple of years ago in 2011. He describes himself as a crop insurance jockey, not a crop insurance junkie. We'll maybe find out about that. Next to Gary, Bruce Stoddard's operation includes his son on 3,000 acres of corn and beans and some wheat. He will use cash forward contracts on 50% of his production by harvest, will use some options after his cash sales. Bruce has used revenue protection at the 80 and 85% level last year. He's looking at GRIP this year. He has adequate grain storage to support some July hedges, all in an effort to capture the carry and the expected basis. And on the your far right end of the stage, Sam Brandenburg farms about 2,000 acres in the Millline area of Piatt County. His operation includes a son, produces corn and beans and some hay for his cow-calf operation. Sam characterizes his marketing as strictly cash with forward contracting as a percent of the new crop. No hedges, no options, but he's used the services of Top Flight's grain pool. His risk management covered by 85% RP and includes the harvest price option. And we want to start with John. John took my invitation to come here very seriously, and he did not make up a 49 slides that some of our speakers did, but John did make up a PowerPoint presentation. There is a single sheet in your packet. It should be at the back of the right-hand section, and if you want to follow along with some of John's arguments and thoughts, you will find them very intriguing. And let's first start off with John Rutherford.
Thanks, Stu. Basically, I'll just read what I have here because I'm not the greatest freelance speaker. There's a series of quotes on the sheets of paper. It tries to hold the continuity of what I'm saying together. They're talking points, basically, and also I'd like to thank Stu for calling me. That's very humbling, and I'm glad to be here. To explain why I market the way I do, I'm going to go through some basic definitions and examine my decision-making process on the basis of psychology and philosophy. There's a continuity of thought here, so bear with me. First quote, belief is a psychological state in which an individual holds a proposition or premise to be true. So let's tear into our beliefs. I think the hallmark of good psychology is to question them. This is something many people never have the stomach to do because it's scary. However, it's the only way we grow. I'm constantly questioning why I think certain things, why I only have partial control of my behavior, why I believe self-limiting things, why I drift internally between grandiosity and some self-loathing. These things are a function of belief, and they're a part of every human. Our beliefs can limit us. Our beliefs can also liberate us. The next quote, "A delusion is a belief held with strong conviction despite superior evidence to the contrary." Beliefs are a manifestation of sentience or self-awareness. They may or may not be true. They're falsifiable. It's our job to question them and decide. They're intimately attached to emotions, and they seem to wax and wane with our emotions. They're a derivative of the superstitions in our mind about ourselves and about the world around us. What is important is to decipher whether a belief, usually coupled with positive or negative emotion, is rational. If it's not rational, it is a delusion. Next quote, "In philosophy, rationality is the characteristic of any action, belief, or desire that makes a choice necessary. Rationality is a function of the decision-making process. It is a philosophical concept that means different things contextually. Therefore, for our purposes, we're going to suppose a decision that is rational, one that benefits us, meaning ourselves and our families and our businesses. Excuse me. There are equally rational decisions that suppose it's better for us to sacrifice self for society. Today, we're concerned with ourselves and our businesses. Decision theory in economic psychology, philosophy, mathematics, and statistics is concerned with identifying values, uncertainties, and other issues relevant in a given decision. Decision theory and game theory are two topics I'm interested in. They're not subjects we can dive deeply into today. However, the assumptions behind a decision are A, that we have reliable information, B, we can integrate said information with perfect accuracy, and C, this will be perfectly executed. It is my belief that we do not ever have perfect information about a market. As farmers, I think we have the least amount of ability to interpolate data into information and to integrate said information into something meaningful upon which to act, say relative to those pros in Chicago. And I can only speak for myself, but perfect execution is atrocious, even when we're paying for the advice. Think of all the good advice you've ignored from your doctor. We spend more time stressing and second-guessing ourselves in the process than we actually do attaining results from this toil. We're fed conflicting information, conjecture, and even hyperbole from market advisors and peers. There is a cacophony of voices then ringing in our head. In an effort to help calm the voices, you become more confused. In a struggle to relieve yourself of your anxiety and confusion, you wrestle with the problem emotionally, not rationally. You buy calls, sell puts, short the board, remove the hedges, put them back on, sell the cash, sell 2 more puts, buy the board, and sell an out-of-money call in order to create some perfect window. I did this for years until I metaphorically jumped out of the window. Quote, "A cognitive bias is a pattern of deviation in judgment that occurs in particular situations, which may sometimes lead to perceptual distortion, inaccurate judgment, illogical interpretation, or what is broadly called irrationality. It is my contention that absolutely nobody knows anything, absolutely, with respect to a market. In fact, I would say that that is an undeniable fact. Therefore, we are left with our own sanity, or lack thereof, in an effort to make decisions regarding the sale of grain, and we're caught up in a mess of conflicting views and imperfect information. This is a catch-22 of make a decision, rationalize it, believe your rationalization, and then perpetuate our own personal cognitive biases, thus reinforcing our delusions. We perpetuate our own insanity." Quote, Insanity is a spectrum of behaviors characterized by certain abnormal mental or behavioral patterns. Personally, I decided to put an end to the insanity of modern marketing. I use what people would call a blind method. Divide the crop out over time, sell cash, use a true hedge, then take the average price. I tend to avoid options. Scott Irwin and Darrell Good produced the AgMass report, which pointed out in summary that advisory service gains are small at best, and the major assumption when using one is that you're going to follow it. I've found that, again, for myself, I am terribly undisciplined in this fashion, and I would wager to bet so are you. Thus, this removes any gain possible from this, from the marketing advisory services, and it returns us to the mercy of a capricious universe. I have chosen to relieve myself of the responsibility of being right or wrong with respect to a market, to relieve myself of the stress associated with the market and its drama, and to turn the outcome over to the chaos that is the universe. So far, this is working out well, and I have more time to devote to my life, as farming is my occupation, not solely who I am. The result is increased sanity, less time stressing over silly market moves. You ever get up repeatedly at night and check the market board? Yeah, it's a sign you're in a real bad position. I don't check the markets every day. I don't think about them for days at a time even. As far as marketing is concerned, and keep in mind merchandising is something completely different than marketing, I've taken the road less traveled, and for me that's made all the difference. That's all.
Okay. Gary, how do you respond to that?
What part in particular, may I ask? Okay. I'm glad that one of us had a prepared statement here. That was good. Most of us have a delusion of some kind. I think we're all aware of that. I would like to see if there's anybody here that has a program in place, whether in marketing or in production, that has always been the best for every year you farmed. Okay, there's a vacuum of hands. Okay, we all, like it's already been mentioned, I appreciate that we don't have the answers. I know I solely don't. We tend to weigh our options. It's been terrific to be here already so far. And the one thing that we've probably seen and noticed, which is one thing I believe in as much as anything, the last two speakers here have again reminded us of the fact that we don't want to do 100% of one thing at one time. Okay, now that's kind of bizarre, but that happens at times. There's lots of things that we do totally out of habit. We all treat crop production in similar ways. We're all in the same area, doing largely the same things. Probably the only thing that separates us in a major way is the small tweaks that we incorporate into our plans in marketing and in production. And I tend to spread out the production, the risk, if you will. Okay, it was made that I just carried federal crop the last 2 years. I did years ago, a time or two, and then I decided, okay, in the past, farmers were gamblers by nature, right? I'm a little bit appalled at how little risk most people are willing to incur in themselves. That can be seen in different areas. Now, I didn't know I was going to be called on the carpet or even told about the difference between being a federal crop junkie and a jockey. I guess we've all gone to sales, and a jockey there, he'll buy a piece of equipment, and he'll think he can utilize this in his best interest, and he'll use it. It's a vehicle, and he'll profit from it. Whereas a junkie, okay, most of us relate that to the druggies, right? Okay, basically their whole life survives and it surrounds this thing, and they can't make one physical decision without first consulting that concept and that idea and supporting, that vice that they have. So it is a very valuable tool. I think we all need to realize that and to acknowledge that. I guess I do have some large reservations about part of it. I, for one, will not be dismayed in the least if they would cut the subsidy back to 50%, say on the premiums. The reason being, they're already going to take us off all of us have seen a litter of weanlings. Okay, they find that one of them prefers the second nipple from the front, and the other likes the third one. That's where the most milk is. Okay, and all people in all entitlement programs seem to want to maintain theirs, but they want to cut others. I think we got to face reality and realize. In the past, I've been fascinated by how we pay our taxes on real estate, and in many cases, that's within $1 of what the direct payment is. Okay, so it comes out of the federal coffer, which is the federal government. That's Peter. So we rob Peter and pay Paul. Paul's a local, economy, a local tax base. So what has been discovered of recent is that Peter's broke. Okay, physically he is. Okay, now we can address this in a lot of ways, but I think at the end of the day, the long short is this. The biggest adjustment that's going to occur in agriculture, if the direct payment goes away, $25 an acre basically, and we take a 50% subsidy away, what is going to be affected more than anything at the end of the day, straight up, is the price of farmland. Because whenever we take a new venture on, we will run the risk. We will run the numbers, and we basically got our seed costs crunched in $100, right? We don't really expect anybody to subsidize that, so we put it on to $400. Okay? Now, what will happen if we have to pay a larger percent of that, let's say 50% versus the small? Right now, a lot of my premiums I noticed this year were subsidized to the degree of 72%. Okay, so what happens? These differences will automatically be bid in to the price of cash rent. What does that reflect? Farmers in production agriculture, which makes up most of us, and some of us own land, it will take away from the land that we own and share crop. It won't affect the long-term margins that we have on cash rent ground, because cash rent will be lowered by that amount. We operate on a certain margin, and that margin will stay relatively the same. So I don't think we need to lose any sleep about that. I think that's actually probably the mouse in the closet, and there's a lot of mouse traps we can use, so we can get over that hurdle. Probably the single thing that bothers me as much as anything has already been addressed today, and I think it's important. Now, one of the reasons I didn't carry crop insurance for a long time is it's a choice. I mean, I didn't have to, didn't need to, so I didn't. And then of course we started reading this long-term data, and the specialists, the weather gurus, what were they telling us? We all read the same thing, and we have to respect them for it. Elwin Taylor told us that this Midwest seldom goes more than 23 or 24 years without a major drought. Well, how true is that? 88 to now? That's pretty close. So, it looked like we were playing Russian roulette, okay? So you might ask why. Why you take something that you don't? No, I'm not in opposition to it, but I wouldn't be troubled or bothered in any way if they cut the subsidy. After all, in the last 9 years, let's face it, we have tripled the price of farmland, which is the number one asset in agriculture. And the government's broke, and we're screaming, don't cut me. We're the third from the front. Okay. But that being said, I guess it'll go on. But I guess I'm as bothered, as conscious every day of the possible carryout coming. And everybody's unified this year that, the consequences could be very serious. And it's not going to be as serious yet this year as it will long term if we go down, because this vehicle federal crop, which most of us enjoy, it's going to help in the transition period, and it'll tie us over. Okay, so it's like a generic put in a sense. When we take out RP, it's like a generic put, and we've already established a price, and it falls down below that, we've got some coverage in place. And some found out this year in a hard way that, it's been sold in the past as, okay, one of the big benefits was that it allows you to sell more early. Remember that? Yeah. A lot of guys are still questioning, so what happened? Well, if you take out federal crop, it's fine. Of course, the HRO is a great thing. I think it all makes sense. That's been discussed today. But what happened if somebody took out federal crop? It was a put, and then turn around and sell it. You're also short to market. And like Matt done a great job of explaining, you better be ready to cover your back with something, because it can be very painful. Okay, now I think the odds of return to this year, and all the same long-term weather gurus that predicted a drought because of the time frame, they say the likelihood of having a dry year this year, at least in our part, is remote. It's almost non-existent, less than 1 in 5 probably. So I think most of our decisions should be made, and I think we all do make those based on the probabilities and not the possibilities. A drought is always possible, but the probability is lower. So I think that the protection that we're going to need to focus on this year is going to be on price. Last year it was on yield, because history told us that's where our potential threat is. So I guess, I think the cut in the farm programs are probably the mouse in the closet. Now the ape in the closet, I think, which we can't trap, but we can prepare for it. And I think we all need to prepare ourselves to survive and even thrive in a lower income in agriculture in the next few years than we've had in the past. That's only being realistic, I believe. We've been wave runners for several years. We've enjoyed it. It's been great. It's been a great industry to be a part of. But as you look forward, I guess I'm troubled or very conscious daily about the 123 million acres that have been added worldwide. I remember so well, most of you here do, 1981, when they made the declaration at every land sale that they quit making it. Yeah, they did, but they started utilizing it again, and that's pretty serious. 123 million added acres worldwide into production. Matt also made mention of the Ukraine. I visited there in January. There's still boatloads of acres along a major canal. Parts of them are irrigated and parts of them aren't. Just as the money comes in the country, it keeps on developing that. There's ample water every year. The channel comes from way up north, even beyond, and feeds it, and never runs dry. So the high prices have once again, they're in the process of doing what they've always done. They probably will hear high prices. So, okay, we'll look forward to some questions later on. Thank you.
Bruce, any reaction to that or thoughts to start with?
Over my head, some of it. I just know it works for me, and I sit around whether I worry or I stew or I fret. That's my business. That's my farm. I sit down and I'll talk to myself. I'll talk to my wife. I'll work through things. I forward contract. I plan to be 50% forward sold. I've got puts and calls, puts long and calls short on beans already. Out of an 80 to 90 cent drop, I've made 60 cents of that, so I'm covered on 20% of a crop. So what Matt was saying works for me. My big debate is when do you get out? And that happens every year. I've seen it in August when I leave on vacation, have a wad of money in a hedge account, and by the time I get back 7 days later, not thinking about anything, it'll all be gone. That's a little disappointing. At the same time, the puts those things covered, the price of the corn went up. I was short corn last year. I sold corn at $8.40 when I finally got harvested, and I turned around when the margin, time value had escaped out of those calls. I paid about $1.60 margin call on a ton of bushels. I sold at the high. It averaged out about 7 or 660. It's not bad. It got me through what I needed done. Could I have made better one way or the other? You bet. Do nothing. I've got a landlord did nothing, and she comes out great. Has the last 2 years, but I can't go through and farm 3,000 acres and do nothing. I've got to plan ahead. I've got a family. This is going to survive. My son's interested in farming. Started as a freshman in college and got his first little field this year. He turned to me and said it's the most fun he's had since playing football. All through grade school and high school, I never requested him to get on a tractor. Mowing the yard was his job. I didn't grow up on a farm. I started this when I was 19. This is my 38th crop I'll be putting in. I started with a borrowed pickup and a big line of credit. Now I'm protecting my net worth. I don't have 38 more years to rebuild what I've taken 38 years to make. I mean, I started $135,000 in debt at the age of 19. And it's the whole other way. Right now what I'm doing is to protect me and my base. I'm a firm believer in the crop insurance. If they want to cut the subsidy, that's fine. I'll deal with those games as they, it's just a game. I'll deal with whatever cards I'm dealt. I'll sit down, I'll try to study and figure it out, what the best avenue is to take care of my business. I've got a boy counting on me, and my wife, I waited till I was 32 to get married because I was in debt up to here, and I knew my butt and the hole in the ground were pretty. I didn't know anything when I was 19 about farming at all. This is honest to God's truth. I know a whole lot about it now, and college of hard knocks goes a long way, and I want to protect them. I mean, I earned what I got, and it's going to be mine when I'm done. And however I have to get there, I won't be dishonest. I'll be above board. I guarantee you that. But I do my homework. If it keeps me up at night, hey, that's part of the game. I'm willing to play that game because I love it. Absolutely love this. I don't think I would have been so good at it had I not. That's what I've told my son all along. Play your football, do your track, whatever you want to do. He did wrestling. And he got on the combine last fall. He had Thursdays off. I lost my help during harvest. He got on a Thursday afternoon, cut 100 acres of beans, auto-tracked it. I was sitting in the field when they got done that night. I said, so what'd you think? He had a grin that wide. I had tears running down to here when I went home that night driving the tandems home. He was in one and I was in the other. It's a good feeling, a great business to be in. I'm glad God gave me the ability to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Bruce. Sam.
Well, this is quite a variety of opinions up here, but like I told Stu, I said I'm not high tech on the marketing part. I know what it costs to raise a crop and make a living because unlike some, I don't have a wife that's out making big bucks. I'm the sole provider, so I've got to make sure that I'm also not only am I providing for myself, but then the son that's with me, got to give him a wage good enough that he can survive too. So we look at that, and as we market, there's no rhyme or reason as to when is the best time to market. I've made some good sales when I've been down in Texas or out in Connecticut, on vacation. They get the text on the phone, and I'm thinking, well, this is looking pretty good right here. Let's just go ahead and make a stand, and then if it goes up, again or down, we at least we got some locked in. And like I said, the pool is another avenue that I do to manage that pricing. The crop revenue, the RP at the 85 fall election, that saved me this year. Me and my bookkeeper were trying to estimate what, without actually seeing the figures. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm going to have to go raid this fund or that fund to try to make sure, Case New Holland credits, sending out letters saying, well, we know it's a bad year, we'll work with you if we have to. I'm not going to have to mess with, with any of my long-term debt. So if it wasn't for that, you hear you see ads on TV and they say, well, farming's a gamble. No, it isn't. Not if you got the right protection. That's why you have crop insurance. That's why you buy life insurance. That's why you buy health insurance, to protect for that catastrophic event that could just suck the life out of it. Now, as far as preparing for this year, I look back and I said this drought of 2012 started in July of 2011. We got through that year with, I call, average corn yields. And I said, we just taxed the moisture holding ability of the soils we had. We just, basically that's what we were running on, was whatever we had stored. When it quit raining in June, that was it. And I was really surprised that we did that good. So we had a little recharge. I didn't think this would drag on. Went through, the normal cropping plans that we had laid out, and as the season progressed, I paid attention to what the neighbors were doing and all that, and I could see mistakes that were made. They looked like they were good decisions at the time, but when it quit raining. So what we've done this year is we started changed the rotation and got away from second year corn, because I'm not going to take that risk again. I said, now maybe the year after that, if it looks like this is going to straighten out, then we may revisit that. First year I raised corn was in 1980, and I had to guarantee my landowner 55 bushels of corn to the acre, and I only raised 45. So my dad kind of bailed me out on that. So and we lived through 83. That government program come out and kind of saved us on that, because what acreage had been in continuous corn, long-term corn, we put into what they called the PIC program back then. So to me, I know that if we're going to be dry again this year, second year corn, continuous corn, is just not going to work. There was a lot of problems with the winter annual weeds in the spring, and I've started implementing fall burn downs to try to control that. There were guys that were working fields maybe 3 times, and they dried them out, just trying to control the weeds. The other thing, we try to do minimum tillage on the corn. Soybeans are on no-till. I had some neighbors that were waiting 2 to almost 3 weeks before beans had come up because they were laying in dry dirt. When I was trying to finish up in May, I actually had to stop planting because the ground was too wet. It wasn't muddy, but for no-till, it was muddy. So, we did good there. But all through last year, right where I live at Mill Mine, that seemed to be the middle of the worst of it. And we're just seeing it, and I'm thinking, no, it's 1980 again, because I remember walking out in the fields, and you go, the plants are all there, and you go on, no air, no air, no air, no air, no air. Oh, there's one. And that year, I remember going out and harvesting with a 715 with a 4-row head on it, and I'm wondering what's wrong with this combine, because it's not, nothing's coming in. And it took a while for me to sink in that this is comparable to cutting beans. That's how bad the yield was. And so we run into that. You know, you get an 80, you half mile through, you go down, you make a full round, you go back down the other end the third time, and you come about halfway back. Now you finally got bin full. So that's what we were looking at. So if it was not for that insurance product, and I kind of learned a few things, and you know, the year before I thought, well, we'll save a little money and we'll do enterprise units. I could have had a claim on soybeans in 2011. So I learned that lesson, did not do that for 2012. You know, spring, fall, I said, now give both. I want both of them, you know. So you don't know what's going to happen. And that's what really paid off. There were those that did not do that and missed out on that fall pricing. You know, you learn from history, you learn from your mistakes, you make adjustments. I got tired of, my son kept asking me, and you know, we're raising some commercial hay and all that, and he says, man, this hay's not growing very good. And he said, something wrong with fertility. I said, no, it needs rain. You got to have some rain. You got to have rain. And actually, that was the only places that were green through the countryside were the hay fields. You know, the roadsides were burned up, the yards were burned up. So I think, you know, paying attention to history, making adjustments. If it doesn't work, look for something else that will work. But it's got to be tuned to your operation. That's all I have.
Thank you, guys. They opened a lot of windows here, a lot of doors. We don't have a whole lot of time. But any questions for anything that you've heard here today on some of the experiences that they've had in what risk management or marketing tools or decisions they've made? We got a time for a couple of questions. Going once, twice. Let's give them a hand for laying out their lives. Thank you, gentlemen.
I use in the presentation because what it shows is in the cost of food in the world. And if you look at this chart, you can see the bigger the circle on here is what the cost of your household income is to buy your food. So if you live in Pakistan, you're spending about 45% of your household income on food. If you live in Nigeria, 40%, Egypt, 38%, so on and so forth. And in the United States, the number was so small, I had to make it bigger, 6.8%. So our great economy comes from the fact that we don't take our household income and spend it on food because we have such an efficient food production. And I always put on the top here, the reason we have that is we have to thank the farmer because what you do, being so productive, so efficient, makes our lives as a whole country better. And the UN did a study, and they went through and said, what does it cost in real dollar terms to feed a family of four for a week? And in Germany was the highest, $500 a week to feed a family of four. There's the meal there. And if you go through in Japan, $317 a week. In Italy, $260. In Great Britain, it was $253. In Kuwait, a little different diet, but $221. And in Mexico, think about in Mexico, this is in real dollar terms how much higher our income is, $189. And then you get to California, $159 a week before you get to the first U.S. city on there. Then in China, $155 a week. And remember, our income's about 6-7 times higher than the Chinese, so they're spending a much bigger percentage of their income. And then you get to Poland, $151. You get into Egypt, you start getting a much cheaper diet, $68 a week, a little different. If you really want to save money, you can go to Ecuador and eat potato soup and cabbage with 9 of your closest relatives for $31 a week. So I just want to say we live in a country that enjoys the fruit of your labor, and we want to thank you very much for making the U.S. Most productive country in the world and the greatest. Thank you.
Our thanks again to ADM Crop Risk Services for making this possible, along with all of our other great exhibitors that we hope you had a chance to visit with them today. We are at the point of closing. I want to ask you again if you would very kindly mark an evaluation form and tell us what you liked, what we could do better, and really be specific on the types of programs that you would like to see in future times. We're always looking for your ideas, and some of the things that we've had in the last while have come from these conferences. We wish you, say thank you for you coming today. Wish you farewell. Be safe in your farming year, and hope you are very productive. I know you'll be productive. Hope you are very profitable, and that you can employ some of the risk management opportunities and lessons that you heard today. Thank you so much for coming today.